Stasera un'opportunità come sempre, e difatti Masterpieces non sbaglia mai, abbiamo l'opportunità, mi scuso già prima se non sarà fattibile i sottotitoli, però con YouTube non capisco il perché, però non c'è nessun problema, presumo che capirete questa conversazione. Abbiamo l'opportunità di poter parlare con il chitarrista dei Gryphon, non soltanto dei Gryphon ma di altre band. Quindi ascoltate e sentite, perché per me è un'opportunità per tutti per scoprire una band che non tutti conoscono, una prog band, folk prog band. Quindi io comincio e godetevi la conversazione. So, Graeme, thank for your time.
That's a pleasure, Matteo. That's no problem.
No, it's my pleasure, because talk with you tonight, it's a pleasure for me. Because as I said before we started, talk for me about Gryphon is very familiar thing, because your band is the best one for my father. Because when my father was young, the first album, Gryphon, 1973, the song I'm Quite Grave was the best for him. So for me, talk with you is very important.
Oh, how is your father now? Is he all right?
My father, I think that later when I send the link, first time you will see this interview. My father now, it will be 69 years old. So in the 1973 was like you at 20, 21.
Yeah. Well,
But
send him my big regards, my best regards, won't you?
Now, the first thing, what is the future project of Graeme Taylor and for Gryphon? What is the future project?
The future well, at the moment, I'd say that we're just taking stock of what we've just been doing for the last 2 or 3 years. We've just made 2 new albums, and the second one has only just been out for maybe 6 weeks, possibly 2 months. So we're not really, to be quite honest, we're not planning anything at the moment other than hoping and praying one day there'll be some gigs to go out where we can play the music. And I mean, we've got some gigs booked in for November.
Okay.
So that's something to look forward to. But obviously at the moment we're not planning another album just yet, because this one's just come out.
Yes, it is very difficult to be, because I think a musician like you who worked many years, it is very difficult, and make some history, because some people who will see this video, maybe they want to find your albums. What is your musical education for guitar? When begin everything? What is the point of the beginning of your career?
What you mean when I first picked up a guitar?
Yes.
Well, that was going back a very, very long way. I would have been only about 10 or 11 years old when I got my first guitar for Christmas present. And I think the reason I wanted a guitar in the first place was because I was absolutely knocked out by the Beatles. And, that was all I wanted to do at the time, was to learn to play the guitar. I was absolutely fanatical about that. So I got myself some books, and I learned to play from looking at books and from mostly really listening to records. I've never had a guitar lesson in my life. I had some piano lessons back then when I was sort of the age of about 11 to 14. I had some piano lessons, basic lessons. So I learned some, music notation and that kind of thing, but really self-taught on the guitar.
Okay, so this is the beginning. When your first band, Gryphon in 1973, the first album. In these times, there was so many prog band. Your different kind of music, so baroque and folk, was chosen by the entire band, or it was a thing to differences between others band, not to be prog and very different from the others?
Well, in those days, there wasn't any such thing really as prog. I think, we certainly didn't ever think of ourselves as being a prog band. That was kind of, it may have been mentioned in the press, here and there, but the word prog band, progressive rock, was kind of became coined much later on, probably towards the end of the 70s, really became more a popular term. But we never decided that, we were going to be a prog band.
Symphonic, maybe.
Well, not that either. It wasn't. What happened? It was a sort of a bunch of influences that we had at the time. Particularly, myself and Richard Harvey were we were influenced by people like John Remborn of Pentang, and David Munro, and people who he ran an early music group playing crumhorn.
Bert Jansch.
Oh, Jansch too, yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, personally, Bert Jansch, but I mean, Richard loved Remborn and the way that, and so did I, the way that he combined Baroque music with, they made the word Baroque and roll, and he combined Baroque with jazz, really, or jazz and folk. So, it was a sort of current trend, that kind of thing at the time. And Richard Harvey met Brian Gulland at Royal College of Music, and he was a bassoon player, and so they immediately became, and Richard was a recorder player, so they immediately became interested in crumhorns. This great sound, this strange sound, new sound that we just suddenly heard. We really loved the sound of it, and so that was, there was an interest in the early music came about because of that, and I was quite influenced by. At that stage, I was getting a little bit more into acoustic music after having loved all the beat groups of the 60s, the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks, and and then going on to things like the Grateful Dead and the band and that sort of thing. And then there was a big wave of acoustic music. I got very interested in acoustic guitar. So we kind of combined in our influences, and we didn't know what we were doing. We did anything we felt like doing, really. We thought, well, but how can we make our own? How can we make it our own? We play folk. We can play some folk tunes, and then we can put medieval instruments into the folk tunes, and that would be quite interesting, So it was just, we were very young, and we were just playing around and experimenting with different sounds. And it's sort of like a melting pot between us, and gradually, we a few years later, we got picked up by Yes and taken on tour with them on the road, and of course we
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, and we went to the States. We did 6 weeks or so in the States, 5 weeks, I think, in the States, touring virtually a gig every single day, supporting Yes, and the big venues all over. And of course we got very influenced by Yes, and so it took on a different shape, but we still we still retained that sort of the early influences, and obviously it was great for publicity purposes, because we were a bit different, and we stood out a bit from other bands. There was no other band playing crumhorns and bassoons and that sort of thing, but yeah.
It is a point because the first album was very baroque, folk, and classical.
That's right.
Because I think that Richard Harvey was the major classical musician inside Gryphon.
Yeah.
There was you, classical, folk, and very technical guitarism, and I think that yes, pick Gryphon because they want a band with a technical stuff behind it.
Yeah, they
I think that
appreciated our musical technique. They did, yeah.
Yes, was a great influence. Yes, because it was 1974. So I think that was the tour of Tales from the Topographic Oceans, because there was Rick Wakeman.
Well, we also toured with them before going to the States. We toured in the UK as well.
Okay.
And so I think we were probably touring with them while they were doing Relayer as well.
Relayer with there was not Rick Wakeman, but Patrick Moraz.
Patrick Moraz was in the States with us, I think.
Okay. Also was the tour of Relayer. Okay, a different album.
Yeah.
So Gryphon, and yes, for us was a very good spot of publicity.
Yes.
Publicity. It was very important. And if you heard when I said before Red Queen to Gryphon 3, there was a huge sort of sound of not a copy, but an influence.
Yeah, an influence. I think actually, all four albums, certainly the first three, were very, very different. Each one was very, very different indeed. I mean, the second one, you mentioned the word symphonic. I mean, the second one was the first album where Richard wrote a major piece, which was Midnight Mushrooms.
Midnight Mushrooms, yes.
Which he wrote for The Tempest, a show, the Shakespeare play that was put on at the Old Vic Theatre in Waterloo in central London. And that was a whole side of an LP. This piece was 18 minutes long, so that was really the first in 3 movements. So that was very
first move. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because Red Queen was a concept album on chess. Yes.
Well, I mean, very loosely, we had to call it something, and we were. I mean, the word, I have to say to you, we pronounce it Gryphon, and
Gryphon, not Gryphon.
No, Gryphon. No. The Gryphon creature was we were influenced again by the stories Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I don't know if you know those. And the Gryphon was a character, an animal character in the book. We actually found our name from looking through Alice in Wonderland. And it's a hybrid creature with the top, the head and the wings of an eagle and the bottom part of a lion. So we thought a bit hybrid would be a good description of what we were. So
with the pot of gold.
Yes, that's right. And so again, we were kind of carrying through the influence of Alice in Wonderland with the chess game, because the second book, Alice Through the Looking Glass, is all based on a chess game. So we kind of took that concept as as a little something to build the idea on: opening move and checkmate, and the movements.
Second spasm. For the people who want to listen, for me, the first 3 album with Rain Dancing, it is a good one. But when I heard this 3 album, it reminds me the atmosphere of Sorry for this. It is very, very, very naive things, childish thing. It reminds me the atmosphere of Harry Potter sometimes. Gryphon, yes.
Yeah.
Gryphon, it is for me. It's a childish remind. But the first 3 albums are very good one. But when 1975 Rain Dances. The sound changed because there was a cover of the Beatles, Mother Nation's Son.
Oh yes, that's right. We did, yeah.
The things changes because it was the last album with Gryphon. Why did you leave Gryphon if it's
Well, it's interesting. Several reasons, I suppose. One, the first reasons was the album as it stands, as it came out, is not quite the album that we made. I had two more compositions that I'd written, and there was one written also by Brian Gulland and one by the bass player at the time, Malcolm. And the record company decided that they didn't want to include our tracks. About four tracks were not included, because they were kind of wanting us to go. They were trying to push us into a more commercial direction, and you know, I found this terribly upsetting and insulting. Really, I was really upset by that. You know, we'd spent a long time putting these tracks together, and they're just not on the album. You can get them on later compilations, actually. Those tracks now. They
maybe yes. Maybe I have the Transatlantic CD.
Yeah,
was the bonus tracks, your songs.
Right, yeah. So that was one reason I became very
upset, angry
by that. I thought, well, you know, they don't want my music, and there was another reason as well. The other reason was it was getting towards the end of the 70s, and you know, so-called prog music was becoming terribly unfashionable at that time. And the new wave of, you know,
punk was the bad force to destroy prog. I don't know.
Sex Pistols came along and, you know, blew everything.
I don't know why this movement, because there are certain bands, punk band, no, not punk, sorry, post-punk bands where was good, but I don't understand why Sex Pistols go with anger to the prog, to Genesis, ELP, Pink Floyd. I don't understand this, and.
Well, I think, you know, there was a feeling that that rock music had just got a bit too long in the tooth, a bit old, and a bit it had lost the rebellious.
It stinks maybe for the punks. It stinks the rock. For me, is a bad thing, because for me, Sex Pistols is not music. Maybe someone tell to me you don't understand music, but for me, Sex Pistols, it was rubbish.
I mean, there were some of the bands that weren't so. I mean, the Clash, you know, did some quite good stuff.
Clash, very good. Good.
And then in the whole new wave, people like Elvis Costello came along, and
Costello,
you know, he was obviously very, very musical. But I think they were trying to sort of regain that sort of rebellious youth, brash, sort of loud thing that the early rock and rollers had. They wanted to go back to that, and also, you know, some of the prog bands, I think, were beginning to just take themselves a wee bit too seriously, a little bit too seriously, and a bit pompous, you know.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Maybe Graeme, as in my point of view, the only band who survived to punk was Genesis. The only band.
Genesis.
Yes, I think that the only band who can survive to punk, because if you think ELP, yes, so many bands broke down, but in 1977, you begin to work with Ashley Hutchins from the Albion Band.
There was a big.
Tell me about this myth.
And sorry?
Tell me about your collaboration with Albion Band.
Yeah. Well, that came completely out of the blue. I got a phone call one day. I wasn't expecting it. Hello, this is Ashley Hutchings. I thought, my God, he was a bit of a hero of mine. I loved Fairport, the early Fairport convention. I loved that very much. So, those guys were big heroes of mine. And he said, well, Simon Nicol is off to rejoin Fairport convention. He'd left Fairport and joined up with Ashley doing the Albion Dance Band, I believe. We were looking for another guitarist. Somebody had given Ashley my name, somebody from a folk club where Gryphon had played some time ago. And, John Rodd actually played the concertina with the Albion Dance Band at the time. Just phoned me up out of the blue, and I went over and met them all at Greg's house, Michael Gregory, the drummer. And I was given, suddenly I'd never played any of these sort of dance music tunes really before, and I was suddenly given lots of chord sheets, and this is what Simon did on this one, and I had to kind of basically take Simon's place on quite a lot of gigs. They had a lot of gigs coming up, and suddenly I was off on the road with them, and that was interesting. We had Shirley Collins.
Yes.
Shirley was great. Always made fresh homemade cake to give to the boys in the van. She was great. But at that time, it was just a dance band, a country dance band, really.
Country, yes. Because if you think with me, Ashley Hutchings, at the beginning of the 70s, with an album like Morrison on Son of Morrison, it is the classic music or the fairy of the countryside, because in this album there was John Kilpatrick, your friend, Simon Nicol, Dave Matax, so many people of the folk band of the 70s. So you entered in the Albion Band in 1977.
It was the Albion Dance Band when I joined. It was called the Albion Dance Band, and I think what happened was because John Tams joined us as well.
John Tams, great one.
After 6 or 9 months of going on the road, just playing for dances all the time, we began to feel like we could offer a bit more and do our own material. I mean, John Tams is a brilliant songwriter, and we felt that the band had more potential as a concert band, as a song band, than it did just playing tunes for dances. So we evolved into what was going to be called the Albion Band, and of course they were just finishing off, when I joined, they were just finishing off the album The Prospect Before Us, which I think I played on 2 tracks. But then when we turned into the Albion Band, it was a slightly different lineup. And we went ahead to make Rise Up Like the Sun, which a great album. With Rick Sanders. Oops, excuse me.
No, it's no problem.
And that was just a fantastic time. Lots of ideas flashing around, so many different ideas. I mean, Rick's jazzy ideas came together with the rest of us sort of folky and quite rocky rhythm sections that we had at that time, and a very exciting time, actually.
It was a good album. For my father, was the best album. 1978. I remember when I was 10 years, maybe, yes, 10 or 11 years. The first song I've heard on this album was Poor Horse.
Poor Old Horse.
Poor Old Horse. It was for me very sad song, but with some feelings. So I think that was the rich peak of the Albion Band, because if you think on album like Battle of the Fields, it is a mixture of electric rock with folk. Rise Up Like the Sun
Yeah.
was the peak of the band.
Yes, I think it probably was. And of course, I mean, after that, we went on to form the Home Service, which was. But I think we went to even greater heights with Home Service, with John Tams and the same brass section.
And later, what you've done? I know that you worked with theater.
Yes, well, I mean, worked until about 87 or 88 with Home Service, and we did about three albums, I think, with them, and that was great. That was absolutely fantastic time. We started playing at the National Theatre. We did a lot of shows at the National Theatre. Some great things, like, for instance, The Mysteries, which was a trilogy of medieval plays about from Bible stories, basically. The creation, nativity, and doomsday plays. I mean, it doesn't sound very interesting when I say that, but they were just fabulous, and they were in the round, or the audience, all playing a part, becoming the crowd in the scenes of the plays, and the band up on a 20-foot platform at one end of the theatre, playing a huge part in the show. So that was my first sort of experience of theatre. But I did, after that, sort of 10 years or so later, I began to do a bit of work in West End shows, that kind of thing, mainly because I couldn't find anything much else to do at that time that I really wanted to do. And as you say, one has to earn some money to keep you together.
Yes, I think that in those years, on both times, the situation wasn't changed. You have to earn. You play, you work, but you have to earn. In my point of view, it is a very raw point of view, but it's very important. And I think that in your position, it is very important to do some music, to compose, to arrange.
That's right. But it's a lucky man who can go all through his life just playing his own music.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, you have to be very, very, very blessed and lucky to be able to do that. Sometimes you just have to play stuff that you don't particularly want to play, just to earn some money. But then later on, towards the end of the 90s, I got back together with John Tams again, and we formed another band with him. And a little bit before that, we joined up with John Kirkpatrick, and played quite a few years with John, and made a couple of albums. So things sort of came back, and of course then eventually, later, another decade or so later, both Home Service and Gryphon reformed.
It is a good one, because yesterday I talked with a friend of mine who sometimes do some streaming with me, and he said to me, like Gryphon or Gentle Giant or others band, now these bands like Gryphon, the searching of this kind of music now is very huge, because so many people searching your albums. I think that I see on YouTube, on eBay, Red Queen to Gryphon 3. In terms of money, it is a good album. It is an expensive album, because I think that now your music, it is more important than the 70s. The things are changed, because now we don't have music. And I think that in my youth, I grew up with some of your music, yes, King Crimson, But now the music, I think that nothing there is nothing. There's no music. So it is glad for me to talk with people like you who can talk about those years.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you have to remember that there was no internet back then, and not any internet really until the 21st century. You know, I mean, it didn't really happen, did it? Until the end of the 90s, we were just beginning to get a bit of internet.
1996.
Yeah, but not many people had it then, and you know, it only really kind of took you know, most people were beginning to get it at the beginning of this century, really. But anyway, you know, suddenly when the internet came along, for all those years, we thought Gryphon was dead and buried, and nobody was interested anymore, you know. But suddenly, when you begin to see websites popping up with you know, people are creating sort of sites just about
fan site, yes,
you know,
fan site
sites, you know, and you think, my God, we couldn't believe it. Somebody's interested in our music still, you know. It was 30 years, 35 years before. And so really that's what brought it all back together again, thanks to the internet. You know, we thought, well, there's a market for this, so maybe we should try getting back together. And we're all still alive, and you know,
still alive. I hope so, because if you are here, it seems to me you're healthy and good.
Yeah.
Because you're healthy and a good humor, and so I hope that Gryphon in the future made some great albums with a change of lineup, because in Gryphon there are you, David Oberle, and Brian Golland. But the last question, and Richard Harvey, why he can't work with new Gryphon? There is a possibility to return in Gryphon.
I don't think so now, really. No.
Okay.
We did. Richard was with us when we first reformed in 2009.
2009, yes. 2008, 9.
We played at the Queen Elizabeth Hall again in London, on South Bank of London, Thames, and that was the first concert that we did when we reformed. And that was great, but we didn't really get around to doing very much more until for another 3 or 4 years. We did a few more gigs with Richard, but Richard moved to Thailand. So, you know, he does have a place over here still, but he spends most of his time in Thailand now. So it was for various reasons, and he's also very busy with film music.
A composer of soundtracks.
He works with Hans Zimmer, so you know, he's very busy working on film music. And as I say, he's over the other side of the world for a large part of the year. So it was very impractical to try and do anything with him, really, to get anything off the ground, because he was not really available very often.
Okay.
So you know, I don't think that he will come back now. Because we've established ourselves with the new people now.
Okay. So long live to Gryphon.
Pardon? Say again?
Long live Gryphon.
Long live Gryphon. Yeah. You said you'd heard a bit of the last new album, did you?
Yes, it is very good. And if you want, yes, and if you want to talk about, we have time, so there's not restrictable time. If you want to talk about your solo album and the new one, talk. There's no problem.
I don't have a solo album, but or not yet. But you know, we're all very, very excited about the both of the 2 albums that we've made in the last 3 years. The last one, Get Out of My Father's Car, has just come out a couple of months ago, and it's already selling really well, and it's got some great reviews. There's a big article just come out in this month's Prog magazine.
Prog magazine, yes.
Six-page article about the band and the new album in there, if anyone wants to have a look at that. And you know, people are loving it, and I'm more excited about this album than any of the other. I think it's better than anything we've done before.
Yes, it is a good album. It is a taste of Gryphon, because I think new Gryphon is like the old Gryphon.
Yeah,
nothing changed so much. Maybe with technology, but
yeah, but it is like the old Gryphon, but it's also got a real freshness, which is very very modern as well, I think. Yeah, I don't know quite how we've managed to do it, but we're all delighted with it, actually. And I think maybe if you have a bit more of a listen, you'll get to love it. I hope so.
I hope in the future, you will come to Italy to do some gigs. I hope.
Well, I hope so too, Matteo.
Because I want to meet you with the band, because I think that in Italy there is the opportunity to listen so brand new music.
Yes.
Not the commercial. So I think that.
Did you know that the Albion Band played a few gigs in Italy in 1981?
No, because in those years, I wasn't born.
No, I know. I wondered if your father might know.
Maybe tomorrow I will ask to him.
There was one place I remember called Latina.
Called?
Latina?
Latina is a little city near Rome.
Yes, that's right. It wasn't far from Rome, and it was an old cinema with a roof that came open, slid. You know, it just slid open like that. And I remember playing in there. See if your father remembers that at all.
Yes, and the second gig was.
I'm afraid I can't remember the second one.
Okay.
I'll maybe try and find out and let you know, but ask him about that. But so that was the only time we did play there. But yeah, I'd love to come to. We just want to play more gigs, you know. Everyone or every musician wants to play to people, and we're all missing it terribly.
But I think that your music with Gryphon and with Albion Band, it is immortal, because I think the good music. It will came again. There's no hurry about it. I think that
it goes in and out of fashion, I think. But
yes, not fashion music, because now the music needs people like you, not the old. Don't misunderstand this, but the band of. The golden era of rock prog. Yeah. Now we haven't nothing. We have nothing to listen.
There's nothing
not
like
Lady
that.
Gaga, not Lady Gaga, please. But some good music, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, well, we're creating the new stuff now, and that's the great thing. Not just harking back to it. You know, we're not just playing material that is 40 years old. We're playing new material now. So
like an evolution, the natural evolution of a classic band.
Our first album, when we reformed, is called Reinvention.
Reinvention.
Have you seen that?
Yes, it is very clever.
I'll show you.
Yes, thanks.
I'll show you this one.
Okay.
Reinvention. You can see
the same style of the website.
It's the same artist. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And that's the new one.
Wonderful.
I don't know if you can
see. Very.
Yeah, there we are. Trying to get the light out of it. Get Out of My Father's Car. Yeah.
on the website. We can buy it. Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the best place probably is burningshed.com.
burningshed.com. So I put down on the liner note of the video.
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it.
Graeme, thanks for your time. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Pleasure for
Keep
me.
in touch.
Yeah.
Keep in touch.
And we'll try and come over and visit you. I promise, if ever we possibly can. Maybe you can help us find somewhere to play over there.
Yes, I want to do it. I will do. Thanks,
Great.
Graeme.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye, Matteo. Bye bye.
Ciao a tutti dal canale. Ciao, buona serata.